Hey, everybody, welcome to the Grow Authentic podcast. I'm Shane Chalupa here with my co host, Sam Lee.
In this episode, we cover so many topics, but if we want to dwindle it down to three things, one is around self development based on real experiences, things that we don't necessarily read on a daily basis, but based on all of the things going on in our personal lives, we do want to figure out what it is that we need to learn more about in order to develop ourselves. So things like being flexible in your daily routine, showing gratitude with the time that you're given to do certain tasks. And then we also go into this idea, it's not a new idea, but kind of the difference between time blocking versus survival mode. I'm sure some of you could relate to having to utilize either or strategy in your weekly routines, but we definitely dive into that a little bit. Um, there was a big update or a few big updates on Shane and Mary's business, Obnovit. So definitely stay tuned for that. It was super exciting to hear the awesome progress that they've made just in the last couple of weeks, but really stemming from a lot of seeds that were planted many, many months ago. And as we always do, we had one pre-selected topic for this week's episode, and that topic is uncovering your limiting beliefs. So if you're starting a new job or thinking about starting a new business, or you have these kind of fleeting thoughts about dreams, or you see things on TV and wonder, gosh, it would be nice if I could have that life. I think that this topic in this episode will speak volumes to you. What's up, Shane?
Hey, Sam, how's it going?
It's going well, man. Good to see you again. How are you doing?
Likewise, things are great. It's Friday, the sun's out, and it's been a busy week, but a good week. We got lots of exciting things happening here personally and professionally. So it's just a great end of the week. We had a little bit of anybody who is in the Northeast, we had some wild weather this week, a few days with the girls home from school and kind of a wacky schedule. Plus, both girls were sick, and I got a little bit of that in the middle of the week, plus a big project that I'm working on. So it's been a roller coaster, that's for sure. But all good now. Sun's out, and we're getting ready for the weekend. So excited to get in and spend some time with the family and the kids.
Not to tee myself a little bit here, but would you say that life threw you a bunch of curveballs this week?
Yeah, I think I can't remember if we were on one of the podcast episodes and we talked about that, or if that was pre podcasting. But when we were talking, it was like people will talk about, oh, I had a hard day here, a hard day there, and I'm like, man, there's like hard moments throughout every day, and the day is actually like a roller coaster for sure, because there's a point at which you're so excited and happy, and then there could be a few hours later something where you're just in the ground and just struggling a little bit. But it's really about, I've found it's about going back to your why, and then surrounding yourself with good people, and then the story that you're telling yourself in your head and trying to change it. It's easier, a lot easier to say that than it is to actually do it in practice. But when you're in those moments, just taking a deep breath and stepping back a little bit, reminding yourself that, hey, don't forget, we are on a planet that is spinning around the sun in a universe, and we are just really like a little speck out here just trying to get through, and that everything is not as serious as it needs to be, and also that you only get one life to live, so you might as well enjoy every moment and try and make each moment as happy as possible.
100%. And I feel like, as someone who has, started his own business, both you and I, Mary, so many other people out there in our same kind of positions, you find yourself taking a step back and looking and trying to find perspective even more frequently than you were when life was maybe a little more structured. Maybe that means before you had kids. Maybe that means when you were working corporate, when your days are somewhat more predictable at
Hmm.
times. It seems like every day there's a need for us to kind of take a step back and assess, why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. And so many other thoughts start coming into your mind of, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And having that perspective of, we're all doing it, it's yes, it's super important, but it's always good to find perspective in, what's truly important, and of course going back to your why on things. And what I found interesting when you were talking about that as well, Shane, is the idea of empathy. I feel like because we have to find our why, and because we're almost forced into looking at things in a new light or through different perspectives, you almost grow this extra bit of empathy when you are starting your own business, or you go down this road of personal growth or professional development, whatever arena you're in, corporate or your own business. This element of empathy starts to grow within you, um, so much, and it's such a beautiful thing, because it's not even just about being empathetic with your clients, or you'll hear on a meeting like, oh, today was a tough day. Yeah, like we grow empathy, we have empathy for those situations. But I find myself just, when I'm out walking down the street, or I'm interacting with the front doorman, I feel like my heart has kind of grown throughout this process, because it's not easy. We are hard on ourselves, so we almost have to be empathetic to ourselves, towards our clients, towards the people that are key pieces in running and operating and keeping our businesses afloat. But that starts really bleeding into our personal lives, which is such a beautiful thing. And I really encourage people to, look at everybody as a human that has their weeks of life throwing curveballs. Everybody's going through a lot. And no matter what you're doing, just, I think that's such an important part, to be able to have empathy, but that also playing into looking at things with really positive perspective.
Oh yeah, big time, 100%. I actually, as you were saying that, a few things came into my mind, and oh, don't mind, I got the dog and my wife in the background there a little bit. This is real, unscripted, authentic. But a few things came to my mind. One is, I'll start with this, that I recently heard somebody say that starting your own business will be one of the biggest personal development exercises that you ever go through. And that cannot be more true, because I kind of feel like that is a big part, because it's starting a business is one thing, but really taking ownership and then taking the big step and the fear that's associated with it and the challenges and all these things, it's just such a mental test that that becomes a piece where you actually, the success of your business is going to be tied directly to your self development and your personal beliefs and everything. And we'll get into that a little bit later, I think, around what different things we tell ourselves and why those might become limiting beliefs. The second part with building empathy is owning a business, that being a huge self development impetus. And then the second part of that was having kids. And in a lot of ways, there's these parallelisms and similarities where, for us, we had our kids before we started our business, and a couple of years before. And so when we had our kids, we really started to understand, like, raising children is such a self-development piece that a lot of people don't talk about. And I've the best analogy that I've found for it is, it's like programming. We all have these programs written when we're little kids by people who influence us, namely our parents and others around us, and that program is written into your subconscious mind, and then that becomes kind of what runs your operating system as you get older. And then once you throw in kids and you're trying to figure out, like, why things are happening, how best to interact with them, you tend to go back to a lot of, like, well, why do I react this way? Why do I feel certain ways? Why do I have certain emotions? And it really kind of comes out, and a big piece of that is showing empathy for your kids and putting yourself into others' positions. Like put your and a lot of people say that all the time, right? Put yourself in the other person's shoes. And that could not be more true and more important for one, when you have kids, and also when you start a business, you're going to realize similar things in that, like you said, really engaging every moment as you go out and interact with the world and the people out there, and just having those positive interactions is so meaningful to everybody and really makes you feel better, and it puts out those positive energy frequencies and vibes that are going to come back to you even stronger when they do come back.
Yeah. It's almost not even anticipating or expecting that return of that positive energy, right? Just truly, just really believing that that's kind of what you need to do and being okay with nothing in return. I think when you do something and you expect something, that kind of sets you up for failure, especially when it comes to the idea of like emotional intelligence, empathy.
Mm.
Um, I think you and I both have, ever evolving, but in the current state, we have pretty strong whys when
Mhm.
it comes to more like philosophical things. And I think a big part of that is that that the why isn't dependent on it being bi-directional, right? It's what we put out that we value much more, and whatever comes in return, it just validates. That's all it is for me, at least. It just validates my why, and it kind of strengthens that mentality over time.
Oh yeah, big time. And that's a huge piece of it, is just when you get started on this journey, whatever that development journey is, you'll likely get interested in it because you're visualizing and dreaming about something, some other future state that you want to get to, and changes that you want to make. But ultimately, the most powerful long-term success you're going to have is by doing things not for yourself but really doing it for others. That's been a big piece of I've been in a business coaching program for 3 months now, going almost finished up 3 months. And one of the biggest things with everything that you're doing, like even for us on this podcast, is putting yourself out there, not so much for your own personal gain, but putting it out there for others, because there's a chance that no matter where you're at in your journey, there's somebody else who's just a half a step behind you in their journey. And there's probably lots and lots of people who are just behind you that would love to hear your story and the knowledge and different perspectives that you have on life that can help bring them up in their level, and a rising tide raises all boats. So really being that lighthouse and putting out there and believing in yourself that, like, the story I do have to tell to people and the things that I do are meaningful and can be impactful to a lot of different people out there. So I, yeah, would echo what you're saying and encourage everybody out there to put themselves out there and don't be afraid to share what you've got going on in your life, because it can, in a lot of cases, it can save somebody's life. And I think I saw this come up after the Super Bowl last weekend, kind of timely here. I just saw a clip of it about Antonio Brown from the Eagles, and he said the post was something about one conversation saved my life. And I think he's struggled with some mental health things in the past, but there was one conversation in his life where it completely changed. He was at a fork and it could have gone really bad. But that one conversation, that one person who had posted something or talked to him, it completely changed his life. And so everybody has the opportunity to influence and impact the world in such a positive way. And you just got to make sure that you believe in yourself enough and really let go of all the reservations and the um, feedback, the potentially negative feedback that you think you might get. Like, you got to put all the naysayers aside and just put yourself out there and see what happens. And you're gonna find your people that are attracted to you and your universe. You'll be able to positively impact a lot of different people that way.
Gosh, yeah. And that doesn't happen overnight, y'all. It takes time. It's a big muscle that needs to be tended to and worked out time and time again. But it's such a beautiful thing. It builds such palpable confidence in someone. And I think kind of alludes back to a few different points that we covered during our first couple of episodes. The first one being in episode one, I think our common pitfall to avoid was not putting yourself out there when you're starting a business. Don't be afraid about the feedback. Don't be afraid of being filled with this feeling of imposter syndrome that you're now a business owner. You want to figure it all out before you even talk to anybody. Um, Once you get over that hump, it's a beautiful thing. And just to go back around being empathetic for your kids, Shane had an awesome tip for parents in our previous episode, episode 2. So definitely check that out. Really good advice as far as being able to kind of relate. I think more so with 2, 3, 4 year olds. But I think that learning could apply in so many different ways, whether it's with kids or in other types of relationships.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I've found on this journey, which to give everybody listening there a little bit of context, I would say my journey started about, gosh, 4.5 years ago. But I would say that was like the very beginnings of it. I was actually working in my corporate job and trying to figure out how to squeeze more out of the hours in a day and get more work done. And so went on a deep dive around leadership and management optimization. I was leading a team of engineers. And so I went in a pretty deep dive around like what does leadership mean? How do you get a team to achieve more, set goals and direction, all of that. And then ended up realizing that like we can't really squeeze more out of a day. Looking back on it now, it's like you're not really starting with the right purpose for that. But hey, I was younger at the time, and didn't appreciate kind of the full perspective, I'll say, or the macro perspective. And it's really about, at the short answer to all of that is, it's really about putting the right people in the right places, giving them trust, offloading things, and then making sure that you're putting in the systems and processes to get it done and most effectively. And that like one single person just working more hours is not the solution really ever. You're not going to get that in corporate world or the Fortune 500s. You're not going to learn that. But that's something, especially going out on your own, that you'll have to start appreciating, is that you want to move away from tying revenue to hours you work in the business.
In
And
some in some way, Shane, that speaks so loudly to me on the more personal side of things since the last time that we met to film. And there's been a bunch going on. There's 24 hours in a day, but the last couple of weeks, there's been things piled on to my plate. All beautiful, all great, positive things, but it's different things in life that's pulling my attention, right? Um, I mean, it's been 1 week since I moved in with my wife. We just bought a place. I think we announced it on like so serendipitously right before episode 2. Still figuring
that's
out the
right.
studio. Obviously, you can tell with the light shining in my eye right now. I have not really figured out my studio setup quite yet, so bear with me. But we had stuff like that going on, um, and a lot of things happening on the client side, just kind of normal things, but just amped up. And I'm a firm believer that, within my time in one day, I like to either time block or task batch, right?
Mhm.
And for those that don't know, time blocking, you're literally blocking out a time for um, a project that you're working on, whereas task batching is where you group similar tasks so that you're kind of in the same mind frame and in a really nice flow to really complete those tasks in a really efficient way. I kind of flip flop between the two depending on the type of work required. For instance, creating an SEO strategy for a client, I'll absolutely time block that project needs my undivided attention with no other clients requiring similar work at that same time. It's just for that one client, that one project. Whereas task batching, I would do more executional work, things like coming up with briefs, actually going in and optimizing and implementing work. That is much more executional and not mindless, but it is pretty similar across the board. So I can do it for multiple clients at once. Now, that's usually my day. And then life happens, right? We talked about life throwing curveballs, you know, furnishing, doing this for the house, that for the house, so many other things going on. My resilience was tested for the last couple of weeks, 100%. And me not being able to time block or task batch these random things that would come onto my plate made it really tough for me to navigate some days more so than others. Um, and in your example, it's a little different when we're thinking about a corporate structure. But for myself, I think there are still some similarity as far as what you can do to kind of weather that storm. And for me, it was all right. Maybe time blocking and task batching for the next couple of weeks is not the way to do it. I actually reframed my mind and I said, let's go into survival mode. Like it sounds kind of, it has this negative connotation that like if you don't
Mm-hmm.
do something, you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more on in a more nuanced way, a little bit more positive as far as I'm going to give myself to whatever needs my attention the most at this moment in time and give my heart for it, whether that's a project for a client or mounting a TV, paying the HOA, but whatever it is, setting up auto payment, whatever it is, because there was so much that I could not expect or anticipate or plan ahead for, I just had to go into the survival mode. And I've been skating by. I don't think it's necessarily a sustainable model. But there are just some times like this where you kind of need to throw out the way that you usually work, adapt, and kind of figure things out along the way. Now, it's come at a cost, and that's why I say it's not a sustainable model.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's killing me right now because I haven't ran nor have I worked out in 7 days. And that's such an important key, like cornerstone piece in my days that really levels my head, breaks, I think I told you a bunch, it kind of breaks my day into two separate days.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's come with a cost. I finally got my first workout in today, so I feel much better. So
Awesome.
hopefully, that survival mode mentality is more behind me than it is in front of me. But now I know whenever I haven't experienced this situation in a few years. Since I started my business, I was very calculated. I planned ahead, structured my days and my weeks. But the past couple of weeks have been just it's unfamiliar, new territory in the grand scheme of like the last couple of years. So it's nice that I learned from the past 2 weeks. I think taking some time today and reflecting also helped. But now I have this in my back pocket for if and when inevitably a time like this comes again. I'm going to switch off that time blocking task batching mode and just go right into survival mode. It's like my third way of tackling life when life gives you curveballs.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that one connected with me on a really deep level because I can relate full scale. I'm on day 4 of not getting my workout in as well, which for those of you out there who might be coming in new, we got Sam who's training for a marathon, the New York City marathon, correct? In the
Correct.
fall, September?
Yep. And I got to
Yep.
shout out. I got to shout out two people because they said I didn't shout out their names. I'm doing it with some accountability partners, David Chiang, David Hong. They're along with me on this journey. But yes, we're training for the New York City Marathon this year.
Hmm. All right, I'm back.
Oh, did we lose you?
I lost you there for a second. You were doing shout out.
Oh my gosh. They're gonna laugh because it just cut out a little bit when I was doing their shout outs. Yeah, I referred to my accountability partners, which I think is also a very big
Mm,
topic that we should get into later down the
yeah.
line. But they were like, "Dang, you didn't shout out our names." So shout out to my guys, David Hong, David Chiang. They are my accountability partners as we train for the New York City Marathon this year.
Nice. No, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And on my side, I'm actually training for a Spartan Ultra, which will be in New Jersey on April 26th. I That came out of kind of nowhere. Last August, I think July or August, decided that I wanted to go for something big in 2025. Had a few people at the gym who had done one in the past. And so I set my mark on that and have been training since. Finished a half marathon back in November and am pushing now to kind of get to marathon distance this hopefully by mid March. And then we'll be prepping for kind of the obstacles and strength pieces into April. And but back to the point we were talking about is these different modes of operation. And this week alone, I've had to go through a couple different iterations because, and owning your own business, you get thrown into this where you have a plan for the week, you get into it, and then all of a sudden, we had with the weather, I think I mentioned it earlier, the kids are home from school. Then they're sick. Then I got sick. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday were pretty rough. I'm finally feeling better today. But to your point, it was like no workout, which is also a huge cornerstone for me. And just the setting the energy for the day, the week, and progressing something towards a goal. So when that gets cut out and then you have other things stacked on top of it with kids and things, fortunately Mary has flexibility here to help step in with them and so I can continue working and focusing on that piece. But man, it is amazing how fast you can get off of your kind of normal track and your planned schedule. And so, yeah, you have to be able to switch between, yeah, like a time blocking setup where things are fairly structured and have some flexibility, but you know what you're going to do each day, to then going into that survival mode and being able to then get back into it is the part that I think maybe a lot of people struggle with, because I know that's hard for me, is like when you do take that one day off of the gym and then it turns a 2 and 3 and 4 plus, that next day trying to get back into the gym is hard. And to me, I like to think about it as momentum. And it's like once you start something and you're in it and it starts becoming more of a habit and you have that momentum going, it's a lot harder to stop that. But man, when you stop it and then you try and get going again, it takes a lot more effort to get it rolling and going again. But to me, that's really what will separate continued progress from stagnation, is the ability to kind of get back up and start building more momentum. And the path, we talk about it a lot, but life in general and the path is definitely not going to be a smooth exponential curve. It's not going to be a smooth linear curve. It is going to be a ton of ups and downs. And really, you just want that trend line to be increasing over time. And so sometimes you got to retreat. I was thinking about that the other day of like I'm a little bit of a military person, from the sense that I can appreciate it and I like to study it. And I think there's a lot of good things that come out of that realm. But I was thinking about the other day, I'm like, you know what? Sometimes even the best of all of the military greats had to have a point in time where they retreated in order to win the battle, and win the war. And so it's okay to sometimes have to go backwards to then go forward again. And sometimes you need that little retreat, you need that little break, you need the mental break, the physical break. Your body's telling you something. Getting okay with accepting that and figuring out your headspace with it is the challenge. But if you do it, accept it, and then when you come back to your next push, it will be that much stronger, and that you're not losing everything. You're just taking a little step back, and that's okay, or a little sidestep, and then you're back on track and you'll keep moving forward. But yeah, that's funny that you bring that up. We see a lot of the same things throughout the weeks when we're talking. And similarities and parallels. And man, this week was the same as you. I was like, oh, I am just struggling without getting to the gym and with the weather and the kids at home and sick. And oh man, it was just like, I would love a little change of scenery or something because you just get kind of bogged down. But then just remove yourself. My wife Mary's really good about, she's worked hard on being able to like not accept whatever you can get in the day. That's also been one helpful piece that she mentions a lot is even if you can't get to your normal 10+ mile run, if you can only get in a 15-minute yoga session today, that's still better than nothing. And so to just take what the day gives you, when you're in that survival mode.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. I feel like I need to practice that a little bit more because it sounds so powerful. Because yeah, no day is the same. Gosh, I mean, I really wish it were, but yeah, I think that's something that I'll have to probably meditate about and practice on. Because I do find myself like, and to a certain degree, it's like when I start something and I can't finish it in that day, but I anticipated it to be
Mm,
done,
yep.
that eats away at me all
Yep.
day, all night. But really, like you said, how Mary is good at taking what the day gives you, and not saying it's an act of defeat, but in fact, it's an act of um, ownership. Of I've only had this much time, and I still maximized it. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of power to that. Hey,
Yeah. Big time. And while we're talking about kind of updates and things, you want to give us a little flyby of what's happened with you all over the past 2 weeks, both personally and professionally?
yeah, I mean, I think I covered off on a lot of the personal stuff. It's been, the move into the condo, um, you know, moving from a 600 square foot Brooklyn apartment into a 1900 square foot condo high rise in New Jersey. Um, there's just a lot more space, and that comes with, having to get more furniture, resituating ourselves in so many different ways. So it's been a lot of kind of envisioning what this place looks like, and that takes a lot of time, a lot of just conversation and planning with my wife. And I think on the personal side of things, that's been kind of the major thing the last couple of weeks. It's been nice also just on the personal side to break away from the house as well and spend time with friends, family. It was my niece's third birthday this past weekend, so that was really awesome just to get out of the house, but moreover, like see that unbridled happiness, that innocence that I think we often neglect in our own lives.
Mm.
And so, not to make a 3-year-old's birthday so serious, but I did feel like it was a good step back in seeing that the joy in life is really the joy. It's the process and the joy. Um, Outside of that, man, professionally, I mean, if the house wasn't enough, there's so much going on. From and each morning, and we've talked about this at length already. But each morning, I'll do my quiet time, do my scripture reading, and I love just having an easy way to kind of review each part of my professional kind of responsibilities. So when it comes to my consult, like I try to use like alliterations or mnemonic devices so that it's like very easy to remember, and I just kind of don't forget about things to think about and yeah, talk about. And so for my consulting business, it's the mantra right now is consistency. Consulting, consistency. That means, keeping my clients happy, giving them the time that they deserve, making sure we show results. For this podcast, community. That's the ultimate game here. Not only just between you and myself, being building that communal bond between one to one, but hopefully anyone and everyone who does listen finds something relatable, and that's kind of the driving force. And want to really build a community with this. But I think the two more recent developments on the professional side is the real estate side and the coaching side. Given that we now own a condo, there's a bit of work to be done. And for those who that don't know, I've always had an interest in real estate, more on the investing side. But I'm ultimately going to have a team that helps rehab, the properties that we purchase. And what better way to understand what goes into a rehab than doing it yourself? So, starting this weekend, there's a few projects that I have on my list. So I'll be doing a little bit of DIY activity. And as Shane, I think I told you this, my entire career has been working with things that I can never touch, visit, or feel outside of like clients' offices and things of that nature. Real estate and doing these DIY projects is going to be super, super cool and kind of a step back into time where, you know, the best jobs were the ones that you do with your hands. I think there's a lot of valuable skills that come out of that. So I'm really excited to work on physical projects that I can see over time. So yeah, that's a big development. That's kind of a larger picture goal that I have as far as call it maybe a second career into real estate. And then last but not least, this is just, man, I'm throwing everything at you right now. But this is a
That's
very
perfect.
new development. Um, and it felt even more applicable these past couple of weeks than it ever did because my consulting business operating on an hourly rate. I give an hour and I take my rate. I just don't see that being super sustainable, especially with life's curveballs, hopefully have kids. And the expertise that I have, I think, is far greater than just an hourly rate. So I've been really ruminating on this idea of hourly rate versus value rate. And I truly believe that that is the next phase of my consulting business. So trying to educate myself with the same kind of vigor and energy that I had when I started the consulting business, because I really don't know anything about the coaching business at all. In some ways, I do educate, but it's never, I've never put together an actual program. So yeah, I'm really excited about this one. It obviously, for my personal life, it creates a little bit more time with my family and friends and other projects that I'd like to work on, but it still hits home with my why. I still get to speak with people. Still get to help businesses, and that's kind of my driving force. And what was super interesting, and there's the last bit on the coaching program. Given that I have maximized my days with every single hour being poured into one or the other thing that I'm working on, um, I think it's an important thing to think about how you can be resourceful with what you are already doing. As an example, this podcast is a great example of how we're learning about new skills like editing, having, gosh, hopefully a better studio than this with the light shining in my eye. But even things like working with the software that we're working with, how to really edit things. Although this is not an editing or an edited podcast, we're starting to learn more about what's possible, and learning, yeah, all the things I think are very necessary when it comes to, jump starting this coaching program. So I'm trying to not necessarily add more things right now for the coaching program because I just don't have the time in the day, but identifying moments in my day where, oh, this can be a valuable skill for me to kind of refine and make it applicable towards a coaching program. Um, and seriously, the last bit, as far as being resourceful and kind of um, almost challenging yourself to do something for the betterment of your business. One thing that my consulting business is that I sell the deals, I do the deals, I don't delegate or outsource. But I am starting to think about just to create a little bit more time for myself, to dedicate towards the real estate side or the coaching program side. I am starting to open myself up to having some extra bit of help to create some more time from my end. So, man, that was a long update. There's four things to take away there. This is why I love those alliterations: consulting, I'm looking for consistency. Podcasting, looking for community. Real estate, a second career. And then the coaching program, what my consulting business will hopefully evolve into.
Man, that's an exciting update. So much to unpack there, and really going to be neat to follow that along as you both refine and adjust what you're currently doing and where you're currently at, as well as looking ahead to the future with a, like you call it, your second career and some new opportunities, and also an intersection of what you're doing from an agency and SEO perspective as a solopreneur, and then translating that over into the potential coaching element and program with it. Really, really excited about that. I'm also I'll start off by saying I'm super grateful and fortunate to be in a coaching program right now with for my business and personal development. And two things that stuck out to me, there are more than that, but let's say the two that immediately caught me were, uh, I've got somebody, when you're ready to kind of explore the coaching a little bit deeper, let me know. There's a person that I'm connected with who that's all they do, is just they basically expedite and bundle people who have something where they know they want to start a coaching program, but they don't necessarily want to do it from scratch per se. They'll kind of take you from zero to start it up and running in a very short amount of time, and kind of give you that whole framework, and probably also do a lot of the back end stuff for you. So we got to remember to revisit that when you're at the point where you're ready to kind of take the next step, even if it's just an initial conversation. And then the other one was on the real estate piece. I'm actually connected with a person here locally in the Lehigh Valley Metro. And he also, from my program, he is into real estate, two sides of it. One is as a owner of multi unit buildings. I'm not super versed in the whole real estate piece, but owner of, I think he said like 41 total units. And then he also has recently started up, I'm not sure exactly what it's called, like redevelopment slash rehab of existing homes and then reselling them. So he has two pieces to his business. Interesting piece for those who are listening, and maybe even for you, Sam, about what's possible. He texted me earlier this week. I think it was on Wednesday. He is down in Patagonia right now, and he had a post that said, "We just bought this property in, I think it was Bethlehem, and I'm not even in the country right now." And so, and then the subsequent day, he had a sale of a home that they had just um, fixed up. I'm blanking on the term for that, the more nuanced term, but basically flipped. There we go. To use the right terminology. So a property that they had flipped, he sold it. Again, this is all, he is out of the country right now. He's got a global team of people supporting him in different facets of the business, and he is running his entire business while he is down touring around South America. So for those of you, and this was only in the last, I got to remember the story, but I believe he really started the effort initially in, I think he said in 2016, but really didn't start pushing into making it his business until 2020. So you're talking a little bit less than 5 years. He's got a business where he's running it completely remotely from Patagonia right now. And so yeah, it'd be great. Probably have him on the podcast. Super high energy dude, a little bit younger than us actually, but a great person. Going to definitely invite him on, and also somebody for you to connect with, to just kind of, as you're getting into this and forming it more. I think he'd be a really great person to just talk to and help out with any questions and things like that.
Oh my God, guys, this is the beauty of this podcast and the community that we're starting to build. Like you just saw the benefit of having conversations, right? I would not expect Shane would have these connections. I'm not going to think, oh, I need a real estate person. Shane might not be the first person that I think of, but we have these conversations, and you don't know what's going to happen. So I love how we mentioned how we want to build a community with this podcast, and it's already kind of happening. But yes, I'm going to write a note down about the coaching program. I'm going to push myself to set aside time to take those types of meetings and just hear from people who have already done it, and get some help, and try to move with some speed on this. And that last bit about the real estate, if anyone listening is curious about long distance real estate investing, there's a tremendous book written by a guy named David Green, who used to be part of the Bigger Pockets
Hmm.
podcast, I believe. They are like one of the go-to sources just for information, but also they, bring in accredited investors. They have projects that you can invest in, but really great source of information. Bigger Pockets podcast. But there was a guy there, no longer there. His name's David Green. He wrote a book called Long Distance Real Estate Investing. Very
Hmm.
literal, and it makes the fear of long distance real estate investing become such a reality. It's all about systems and processes, and obviously, well, not obviously, but interviewing with rigor the key people. I think he calls it like the core four. Um,
Hmm.
but it makes it seem attainable, and it
Hmm.
is attainable. Shane has a guy that is doing it. I've spoken to people that are doing it. um, and so, yeah, if anyone's curious, I'd highly recommend you read that book. I think it's like a yellow cover. If you like hardcover books, it's like a yellow book, but it's called the long distance real estate investing by David Green. But thank you, Shane. That was awesome. We'd be remiss to give you the floor a little bit for any professional updates on the Obnovit side. And we have that one pre-selected topic, as we always do. So I'll give you the floor, my man. Any updates, and then we'll go into the topic.
All right, that sounds great. Appreciate it. So let's see updates since our last episode. It's been a whirlwind because coming off of our last episode, my wife and the kids were gone for a whole week, heading into when we recorded episode 2, and then they returned. It's been amazing to have them back, but also a complete change of the schedule, coming off of a whole week without anyone here. So a lot of time blocking that week and pretty flawless execution. And now we're a little bit more, we flirt on more on the line of the survival versus time blocking with the kids being home, and especially this time of year with snow days and snow delays and sickness. But all that being said, it's been amazing. Personally, I'm trying to think if there's been any major updates. Not a whole lot. We're just kind of pushing through here, waiting for warmer weather, but the kids are doing well, and Mary and I are also doing well, and just growing so much, both on the parenting side and on the personal side. A lot of it all tied again. Owning a business, having kids, having a spouse, all the principles and the things that you're doing for self development tie in together seamlessly. So that's always beautiful. And then on the professional side is probably where we've had a bit more bigger updates. So as of episode 2, we were really pushing hard on marketing and sales, kind of we have a target to hit 50K in revenue by the end of this month. And we had already secured the first contract that was executed back in December. That was about a little over 20K towards our goal. And then lo and behold, last Friday, submitted a proposal and got awarded a project for exactly 30K. So we were able to achieve that. And now it's kind of into what I'll call delivery mode or execution mode, and have been deep diving into that. Got kicked off on Monday on the project, and now we're gonna kind of go full speed with that before I actually leave. And we'll have to adjust our recording schedule a little bit. 2 weeks from today, I'll be on a plane to go out to Sun Valley, Idaho on a yearly ski trip that myself and some other people that Sam know, a group of great guys from our fraternity at the old alma mater at Lafayette and Zeta Psi. Shout out to everybody out there listening, who's who can who's part of the group. But yeah, it's going to be great. We've been doing it for let's see, 2012. So I think we've been doing it. This will be year 14. And I think we missed 1 year because of COVID in 2020. But yeah, 14 years ongoing, pretty wild. So we'll be heading out there. I'll be gone for from Friday to Wednesday coming up. So looking forward to that in 2 weeks. And so now it's just pedal to the metal, get as much done as I can for this project to tidy it up before I leave. And we've also got some other proposals out right now looking at the in intersection of technical capabilities on my side, being the engineer, as well as the sales side with Mary. And so we've got some independent sales rep opportunities to where we are able to secure a retainer for a commitment of our time and then have the possibility for some commission rate on top of that based on sales produced for a couple of different companies. So we're in advanced discussions, hoping to close one deal on Tuesday and get that teed up and started and rolling. And then we've got about 2 or 3 others outstanding as well. So it's really shaping up to be a fun start to the year here. Things are, you have these goals and you never know how you're going to get there. But the point is, and I used to struggle with this a lot, was like I needed to know every single step along the way to get to that goal before I would start, for fear of messing up a step or not getting there on the right schedule or something. But what I've learned lately is you just have to focus on the goal and then take daily action towards it and daily things that are going to make it inevitable that you'll get there. You're not going to know every single exact piece when you get started. So you really just got to focus on each day, each step forward, and know that things will deliver and the universe has a way of working it out.
My goodness. I mean, in some ways, I think it feels like I've been side by side with you since not the absolute beginning, but at least the beginnings of, looking for deals, sending proposals. I think I remember the first proposal that you got. I remember I was getting goosebumps um, listening to you talk about that update. Same way that I'm feeling right now. And what's cool to see that journey is always the first one. The first one is, like you said, you don't know exactly what steps you have to take to get that signature. Um, Maybe for some people it went exactly the way that they expected,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess that in most cases, whether it's your first or your 1,000th one, the majority of those deals go in a way that at least a few steps along the way you kind of did not really expect, certain twists and turns. And what's so cool is that now that you have a few deals that you've signed, and hopefully a lot more in the coming year, you're now able to do a bit of a retrospect and kind of validate that, yes, like it's not always exactly the way that I planned it to go. But now that fear is kind of out of the window as far as, all right, what is that first step for the next deal? And yes, you could plan the first 10 steps, but now you have the experience to know that this is the kind of rough plan for now. You've put rigor behind it. Um, but now you're ready for when that inevitable kind of twist and turn comes up, towards that final signature.
Yeah, the what I hear a lot of people talk about, kind of an analogy, is you're building the plane as you're flying it. And I think probably for most people out there in entrepreneurship, that would resonate pretty strong, because you can't possibly know everything up front and you don't know what turns and twists it's going to take. And a lot of it also is about the people that you meet along the way, like these um contracts that I've gotten. Some of them were from like what I would call my warm network of people that I've either worked with or friends. But actually, this most recent one was just somebody that I happened to meet on an old project. We didn't even actually do work together, but I knew that there was a lot of overlap, and then decided to connect with him back in, I think it was January. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, boom, he has an urgent thing that needs to get done. There's nobody to fill the gap. And it's so, I mean, you want to talk about crazy? This happens to be a project in a state where I got my license, my engineering license. I don't have all the states. I only have, let's see, as of earlier in the month when we met, I only had 4 states: Colorado, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Arizona. And it just so happens this project is in one of those states. And that I have never even used it for probably 7 years, 7.5 years since I got my initial license, never touched anything of what I would call my stamp or my seal for that state. Haven't even looked at work in that state for 7 years, but all of a sudden, meet him. He has a project. It happens to be in one of the states where I have my license. And I'm like, yes, I can satisfy that. He needs it done starting on Monday. Yes, I have bandwidth. Like, you couldn't even write a novel story that serendipitously and that precise. Like, it is just wild how the stars align for sure. So that was a pretty exciting moment. And now that I'm reflecting on it, I'm like, wow, that the universe has a way to deliver, that is for sure. And just really about belief and faith. And that's also a good segue into the topic that we like to have each week. And this week, building on a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about, I wanted to just quickly touch on limiting beliefs, because I think, as people, earlier episode 1, we talked about setting a vision, setting goals, taking daily action towards that. I would say the other half of the equation of achievement is not only doing that part right, but you also then have to have and be working on, kind of the topic for this episode is turning out to be self-development. And to me, that all starts with your beliefs. And I like to think about it again as a program that you acquired and that was imprinted on your brain. The best way that I like to describe it and think about it is a program like you would have for your computer. Your brain subconsciously has all this programming in there. The billions or trillions of neural networks. It's all programmed from when you were born, basically. And a lot of the stuff that you believe about the world and about yourself started when you were younger. And a big influences from your childhood, namely parents, friends, family, all of that, that kind of sets and solidifies this initial program that gets run. And as you go through life and you get to certain points, you're going to realize, like, you may realize, I should say, that you're living your life and you view it through a certain perspective, but like, you're in conflict of like, well, this is how it always was, but like, I don't necessarily resonate or feel that strongly about that anymore. And I almost need to change that. And really, that's the beginning of the new self development process and breaking through the limiting beliefs. And some exercises you can go through. One book that I would definitely shout out, because this is something that I've been trying to use as kind of a mantra or a daily question I ask myself. So, book here, recommendation from me this week is "You Are a Badass" by Jen Sincero. I picked that up a year and a half ago. I read it, read the audiobook, read the physical copy of it then again, and actually use that now as a pre-bedtime story for our little ones, and I'll read a few pages out of there. That book is so moving because it just, to me, it gives such a real life example of limiting beliefs. And as you can imagine by the title, "You Are a Badass," telling yourself and believing that, because truly every single person has something unique and valuable to bring to the world. And it's just a matter of getting the confidence to go out and do that. And one of the big exercises in there is like, whatever dream or vision you have, you're sitting on your couch watching TV and you're like, man, I know I'm meant for more in this life. And whether it's fitness, physique, wealth, financial, partner, anything where you want to achieve something, and you were like, man, I really want to be that. I want to be, let's go somewhere warm right now, right? Like, I want to be on an island with my feet in the sand, a drink in my hand, on the beach, crystal clear water with my family, all of that. And you're right now, you're on your couch watching TV or you're scrolling social media. It's like, in your mind, you need to start thinking like, why not me? Why can I not be the person who is able to get on a private charter jet and go down to the Caribbean? Why am I not the person who can't own my own business and do real estate from South America in Patagonia? Why not me? Like when you have something, think why not me? And you'll start finding that like, wow, a lot of the reason why I tuned that stuff out is because of my programming. It was like, well, no, I don't have the genetics. I wasn't born to be that way. These are all things that I used to believe about myself, right? Like, it could be athletics, whatever the case. Well, I wasn't born with the right genetics for that. I wasn't wealth. I wasn't born into a wealthy family and I don't understand that. So I would never be able to get to that point. All these things, a lot of it's going to point back to your childhood is the programming that you've got and really kind of rewriting that to say like, wait a second, why not me? And also then think about who are people that I know who are in the same situation or similar situation who have achieved what I want to do and guarantee you there's an example of somebody in your situation or worse. Another shout out to a person that I like enjoy following and reading his book also is David Goggins, because if you want to talk about uh, read his book and then you want to think about your life and how bad it is, his childhood is one of the most moving, challenging situations that I've ever encountered in a book. And now what he's achieved. So like the point being is that no matter where you're at, like somebody has achieved what you want and there's no limitations. Like you should not put limitations on that. And also you shouldn't feel vain about wanting to achieve more. I think there's a lot out there in society right now about you should want to be minimalist and you shouldn't want these things and all that. And I 100% believe that that is pure garbage because at the end of the day, if you achieve more and you are a good person, you will be able to give back that much more to people around you and help that many more people around you. There's this kind of negative connotation that these wealthy people are, bad or negative and all that, and that plays into people's self-limiting beliefs. And in reality, the more you're able to achieve in your life, the more that you can then help others, and that really has to be the starting point of the mission. So keys here: ask why not me, ask is there somebody else in the position that I'm in who has achieved what I want to achieve, and then the third piece is go back to dreaming like you were in grade school. I don't know if anybody else will remember, and this will kind of trigger them with a little light bulb moment and a memory, but I can remember in grade school we did an exercise. We used to have a journal. For those of you, I it's weird getting to this age where like yeah, I had a physical journal where we would write with a pencil in the actual paper and it wasn't a tablet or a computer. But I remember very vividly this journal exercise where the teacher asked, today's journal exercises, you just won the lottery. Like, what would you go do? Like, describe what your life would be like. And I go back to that now so often of like, just dream in an unbridled, unlimited fashion, because really the only limits are what you set in your mind. If you set your bar so high, the universe, and you keep taking daily action towards that, the universe will deliver. So the only limit is the limit in your mind. And it's really that belief about the world and about yourself. And going back to the exercise, it's like, write down in your journal, like if I got this, whatever it might be, the physique, the wealth, any of those things, partner, spouse, write that down in your journal and what you want and what that vision looks like, and don't put any limits on it and just allow yourself that freedom. A lot of us, myself included, for almost 20 years, probably maybe even more, I was just on autopilot, just doing the societal norms of what kind of everybody does, go to high school, go to college, get a job, work in corporate, be a cog in the wheel. And I forgot to let myself dream and go big. And then I reacquainted myself with that. And then as you start doing that, beautiful things start happening in your life and you start growing at this really unbelievable rate. And then for me, it's also about, as I'm doing that, again, going back to being a light for other people to then help them and give back more and bring people along with that journey. So, that is the topic for this week. Why not me? There's definitely an example of somebody who's been in your situation or worse, who's achieved what you want to achieve, and then allow yourself to dream big and go completely unbounded, go for your vision and your dreams and write those down and start believing that that is and can be your reality. And there's going to be a whole bunch of layers and things that we'll unpack below that, but to me that's really the starting point of vision and goals for your year and daily actions towards those. But in order for that all work, you really have to morph the two together and look at the self-limiting beliefs, because you'll ultimately just handicap yourself if you're not going through the mindset piece and working through that, because that's where the magic happens.
That was so powerful and so applicable, at least selfishly for me, as I think about the real estate as a second career, as I look to evolving my consulting business into a coaching program. I'm kind of back at square one. And those kind of constant reminders to myself that why not me? Why can't I do this for the real estate side? Why can't I become the best SEO coaching program out there for whatever niche or whatever the business turns into? Why not me? I think there's so much power in thinking about it in that nuanced way, in a more positive and less of a self-pitying way. Um, so I feel like that spoke directly to me, and yeah, I'm taking so many great nuggets. I hope anyone listening, at least, you know, whether it's something going on right now or in the future, this is something that you can either jot down or have saved in the memory bank, because I think so powerful, so applicable and actionable. Um, as we wrap up this episode, we always like to end with a common pitfall, but I think that message deserves its own entire segment of it being the pre-selected topic and the pitfall, because that's the pitfall, right? We don't think, why not us? We have this mentality that we're not good enough. Um, we don't think that there might be someone out there that has already faced what we're facing. So I want to leave it there. I think that's a great pitfall. And even more importantly than that, those actionable steps to really pick yourself out of that dark, dark place, and start dreaming big and putting some steps towards making that dream a reality.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And for all those out there, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and also don't hesitate to reach out on socials or via email. And we will definitely love to engage. And if you're going through something or would like to elaborate on anything that we've gone over today, Sam and I make ourselves available. Love helping people grow and expand. And that's what we're all about here with, like Sam said, community. So again, feel free to reach out anytime. We would love to engage and help wherever we can and shine our light and give you any expertise and knowledge that we've gained along the way to help you.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. And Shane, always a pleasure. Have a good rest of your Friday, brother.
Thanks. You too. Enjoy the weekend.
Peace.